My parents bought my brother a luxury car for his 18th birthday. I got a thrift store jacket. Turning 18 is supposed to feel like stepping into adulthood, right? Like getting your first driver's license or voting for the first time. Well, for me, that day felt more like walking through a door and realizing the party was already over, and I hadn't even been invited. It was our 18th birthday, mine and my twin brother Jake's. My parents went all out. Balloons, streamers, a huge banner in the backyard with Happy 18th, Jake and Eric in bold letters. But even that felt like a formality. Everyone knew who the real guest of honor was. Jake was always the star, the life of every party, the golden boy with the easy smile and the effortless charm. He could crack a joke and have the whole room laughing within seconds, like he was auditioning for a late-night show. Me, I was the other twin, the quieter one, the one teachers described as hard-working, while Jake was brilliant. The party buzzed with excitement, but it wasn't for me. I stood near the snack table, watching friends and family flock to Jake, congratulating him like he'd just won the lottery. My parents beamed every time someone mentioned how lucky they were to have such an amazing son. Their eyes didn't even scan the crowd to find me. I grabbed a can of Dr. Pepper and stood there sipping it like it was a lifeline. When it was time for presents, everyone gathered around the driveway. Jake stood front and center, soaking in the attention. Dad handed him a key fob with a proud grin, and the crowd erupted as the garage door opened, revealing a gleaming, midnight blue Dodge Challenger. The car looked like it belonged in a movie. Polished chrome, leather seats, and an engine that growled when Jake revved it. "For our brilliant boy," Dad announced, clapping Jake on the back. "A car worthy of your bright future." My chest tightened. I tried to smile, clap along with everyone else, but my palms felt cold. I wasn't surprised, not really. Jake always got the best. The newest sneakers, the coolest gadgets. He was headed to a top-tier university next fall, fully funded by savings my parents had set aside specifically for him. They said he had potential. Meanwhile, I'd been bagging groceries at Kroger and mowing lawns to scrape together community college tuition. The only reason I had a chance at higher education at all was because Grandpa Sam, who lived states away, sent me some money when he heard about the situation. Grandpa always said my parents were too busy polishing one apple and letting the other rot, but whenever he tried to step in, Mom told him to stay out of their parenting decisions. Lost in my thoughts, I almost didn't hear when Dad called my name. "Eric, we didn't forget about you." Heads turned toward me. My stomach dropped. I didn't want the spotlight anymore, but Dad pulled a package from behind his back and held it out. It was soft and lumpy, wrapped in plain brown paper. I forced a smile, peeled back the wrapping, and held up a leather jacket. It was black, worn at the elbows, with faint cracks on the sleeves and a musty smell that reminded me of an old thrift store. My eyes caught a faint smudge of faded perfume near the collar. Maybe Chanel No. 5, like the kind you'd smell when walking past a perfume counter at Macy's. "You mentioned wanting one months ago," Mom said, her smile tight. "It's vintage. Very trendy." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. I remembered mentioning a jacket like this in passing, half joking about how cool it would be to ride a motorcycle someday. But I never expected this. Jake's laugh broke the silence. "Dude, you're going to be irresistible now. The girls will be all over you, chasing you down the street like you're a discount Elvis." He mimicked a swooning fan, staggering around the driveway. The crowd chuckled, some of them reluctantly. My face burned. I tried to chuckle along, but the sound stuck in my throat. I clutched the jacket tighter, feeling its rough edges bite into my skin. Memories flashed through my mind. Watching Jake unwrap expensive toys while I got books to build character. Hearing Mom say they couldn't afford soccer gear for me while signing Jake up for private tennis lessons. Seeing the college fund labeled for Jake's education every time I passed a family's finance binder. The jacket hung heavy on my arm. The smell of the perfume turned my stomach. Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. A family should lift both kids up, not just one. Don't let them make you believe you deserve less. But maybe I already had. I stood there, jacket in hand, while everyone's attention shifted back to Jake. The laughter returned, the music cranked up again, and the moment passed for everyone else. But not for me. That night, as the sun set and the Challenger's chrome reflected the fading light, I realized something. This wasn't just a birthday. It was a reminder. I'd always been the shadow, the afterthought, and no one ever expected shadows to step into the light. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to prove them wrong. The next morning, I woke up with a dull ache in my chest. It wasn't from a late-night workout or some wild party. It was like waking up after binge-watching Netflix until 3 a.m., only without the satisfaction of finishing the season. The weight of that jacket still hung in the corner of my room, mocking me. The smell of stale leather mixed with that faint perfume clung to the air like a bad memory. I glared at it for a moment, then grabbed it and tossed it across the room. It landed in a crumpled heap, just like how I felt inside. I spent most of the morning avoiding the world. Jake, of course, was already out cruising around in his new Dodge Challenger, probably blasting classic rock and giving rides to half the cheer squad. Mom and Dad were busy cleaning up the aftermath of Jake's epic party, chatting about how proud they were of him. I stayed in my room, scrolling through TikTok and raiding the fridge for leftover pizza, trying to pretend I didn't care. By noon, boredom got the better of me. I picked up the jacket again, holding it at arm's length like it might infect me with disappointment. The leather was cracked and uneven, the seams frayed in spots. As I ran my fingers along the inside lining, something caught my attention, a rough patch near the right side. I tugged at it, and the stitching gave way with an almost satisfying rip. My heart skipped a beat as my fingers brushed against something hard beneath the fabric. It wasn't just padding or some random bit of stitching. It was something else. Curiosity replaced my frustration. I stuck my fingers deeper into the lining and carefully pulled out several small, crumpled rectangles. My mind raced through possibilities, secret notes, maybe some old receipts. But when I smoothed one out, I froze. They were lottery tickets. For Mega Millions tickets, to be exact. The paper was worn, the edges soft like they'd been handled many times. I stared at them, my brain struggling to make sense of it. Why were these tucked away inside an old leather jacket? I inspected the first ticket. The date was from 4 years ago, numbers faded but still legible. Nothing remarkable. The second and third were the same old, expired tickets that someone clearly hadn't had the heart to throw away. The fourth ticket looked just as old. Same faded ink, same worn edges. I almost didn't bother checking it. I figured it was probably another dud, a forgotten memento from whoever owned the jacket before me. People always joke about finding a winning ticket in the couch cushions, but let's be real. Those stories never happened to guys like me. I was about to toss the tickets on my desk when I heard footsteps thundering up the stairs. The door flew open and Jake appeared, grinning like he'd just won a game show. "Dude, come check this out," he shouted, gesturing wildly. "You gotta see what this baby can really do." He meant the car, of course. His new Dodge Challenger, his pride and joy. The ticket slipped from my fingers onto the desk as Jake grabbed my arm, dragging me toward the door. I cast one last glance at the old tickets, the fourth one still half folded on the desk. My mind told me it was just trash, but something about it nagged at me as I followed Jake outside. I didn't think about the lottery tickets again for the rest of the day. Jake kept me busy with his car showboating, burnouts in the cul-de-sac, revving the engine like a rock star at a sound check, and basking in every neighbor's attention. It felt like living in a live-action Fast and Furious sequel, just with more suburban dads shaking their heads. I played along, laughed when expected, but my mind kept drifting back to that old leather jacket and the 4 crumpled tickets. Later that night, back in my room, I grabbed a soda and sat at my desk. The tickets were still there, scattered where I'd left them. The fourth one lay on top, its edges curling slightly, looking as unimpressive as the others. I set the soda down absent-mindedly and leaned back in my chair. My mind wandered to Jake's endless bragging and Dad's morning rant about the water bill. I didn't even notice the can teetering until it tipped, spilling sticky cola across the desk. The brown liquid pool beneath the papers, soaking the lottery tickets, warping their edges and smudging the faded ink. "Great," I muttered, grabbing a handful of tissues. The soda seeped into everything, turning the tickets into soggy, sticky scraps. Frustrated, I scooped the whole mess into a ball and tossed it into the trash can by my bed. The soft thud sounded like closure. Who was I kidding? Nobody wins the lottery by accident. I never even bothered to check the fourth ticket. It looked just like the others, old, faded, and probably worthless. The next day, life continued as usual. Jake bragged about his car. Mom gushed about Jake's natural charisma. Dad complained about the water bill while sipping his Dunkin' coffee. I tried to ignore the gnawing frustration that seemed to be my constant companion. By the afternoon, I was sitting on the couch, mindlessly flipping through TV channels while scrolling through my phone. I passed an old rerun of Friends and paused for a second, but even Ross's whining couldn't distract me. My ears perked up when I heard the familiar jingle of the Mega Millions broadcast. I glanced at the screen. A polished, overly cheerful host stood in front of a golden backdrop, announcing the latest jackpot winner. And the winning numbers for the $58 million jackpot are... I froze. 58 million? My chest tightened. My mind raced. I didn't know the exact numbers from the ticket. I never checked it, but something about that amount nagged at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd seen it before, like a forgotten tune stuck in my head. My vision blurred for a second. I sat up straight, phone slipping from my fingers. My mouth went dry. Someone's life just changed forever, the host chirped, beaming at the camera. One lucky winner has claimed the prize with a ticket purchased at a small convenience store right here in town. I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears. My brain raced through the timeline. A convenience store nearby. The jacket, the ticket. From across the room, Dad let out a low chuckle. Can you imagine that? 58 million bucks. Someone out there just hit the jackpot. Man, we could use that kind of luck. My stomach twisted into a knot. My mind reeled back to the night before. The tickets. The trash can. I shot up from the couch so fast that Dad gave me a startled look. I sprinted to my room, flung the door open, and skidded to a stop beside the trash can. Empty. The trash can was empty. I staggered back a step, dread flooding through me. I always took out my trash, but not this time. Someone else must have done it. Trash day. I rushed to the window. Outside, the garbage cans lined the curb, their lids ajar like open mouths mocking me. The scent of hot asphalt and stale trash hung in the air. My heart pounded as I tore down the stairs and bolted through the front door. I reached the bins. They were still there. The garbage truck hadn't come yet. I froze, chest heaving, staring at the metal lids as realization sank in. Somewhere in one of those bins lay a sticky, crumpled ticket. A ticket that could be worth $58 million. And I had only moments to find it. The rumble of the approaching garbage truck grew louder, vibrating through the pavement beneath my feet. My heart raced. I yanked open the lid of the nearest trash bin and was immediately hit by a wave of sour, putrid air. I gagged but didn't stop. Somewhere in this mess was a sticky, crumpled ticket that might just change everything. I plunged my hands into the pile of garbage, pushing aside greasy pizza boxes, empty coffee cups from Dunkin', and plastic containers that reeked of spoiled leftovers. My fingers sifted through damp paper towels and mystery sludge as the mechanical beep-beep-beep of the garbage truck's reverse gears sounded closer. Behind me, laughter erupted. I didn't need to turn around and know who it was. "Yo, bro!" Jake's voice sliced through the air like nails on a chalkboard. "What are you doing?" "Digging for dinner." His friends cackled. I could picture them perfectly. Leaning against Jake's shiny Dodge Challenger, phones out, recording me like I was some sideshow freak. The glow of their screens lit up their smug faces. "Maybe he's looking for his self-respect," someone chimed in. "Nah," Jake said, voice dripping with mock concern. "Maybe he lost his pride in there. Or his future." I clenched my jaw, my cheeks burning. The humiliation stabbed at me, but I didn't stop. My fingers dug deeper into the trash. Pride wouldn't pay for college. Pride wouldn't get me out of this town. But that ticket might. The garbage truck's brakes squealed as it came to a stop at the curb. One of the workers hopped down, pulling on thick gloves and eyeing me with a mix of amusement and mild disgust. "Hey, kid," he called. "You need something? We're about to dump that." "Yeah," Jake shouted. "He's treasure hunting. Maybe he'll find a winning lottery ticket." The group burst into fresh laughter. I forced myself to breathe through my mouth and kept searching. My hand slid over slimy wrappers and unidentifiable chunks of something. I felt a sharp edge and winced as it sliced my finger. Blood mixed with the grime on my skin, but I didn't stop. "Come on, come on." The garbage truck's engine roared as the hydraulic arm clamped onto the next bin. Panic surged through me. I shoved aside a crumpled fast food bag and felt something slightly thicker than the rest of the trash. I grabbed it, yanked it free, and stared. It was a sticky, cola-stained Mega Millions ticket. My breath caught. My hands trembled as I clutched the damp, smudged paper. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered, the realization hitting me like a punch to the gut. My chest felt tight, like the universe had just thrown me the craziest curveball of my life. Behind me, Jake's voice broke through the fog of disbelief. "What's that, Eric?" "Find a coupon for free fries." I ignored him. My eyes locked on the ticket, as if I could will it to tell me its secrets. The garbage worker stepped closer and nodded at the ticket. "That important?" he asked. I swallowed hard and gave a small nod. "Yeah," I croaked. "I think it might be." The man gave a knowing grunt and adjusted his cap. "Well, hope it's worth the smell," he said with a wry smile. The truck hissed again, the metal arm lifting the next bin. I stood there, gripping the crumpled ticket with both hands, my heart hammering in my chest. I didn't know if it was a winning ticket. I didn't know if I was holding a miracle or just a sticky piece of trash. But I was about to find out. The moment I had the sticky, crumpled ticket in my hands, I didn't waste a second. My pulse hammered in my ears as I sprinted toward the house, the sound of Jake's laughter fading behind me. My sneakers slammed against the pavement with every step, like I was racing to catch the ice cream truck on a hot summer day. My breath came in short, sharp bursts, and my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the ticket without it slipping. I burst through the front door, nearly colliding with the side table in the hallway. The lamp wobbled but stayed upright, the ceramic base rattling like it had just survived an earthquake. I didn't stop to apologize to the furniture. I shot up the stairs, 2 steps at a time, slammed my bedroom door behind me and locked it. My fingers fumbled with my phone as I opened the Mega Millions app. The screen glowed brightly against my sweaty palms. My mind raced. What were the odds? People don't just find winning tickets in thrift store jackets. This was insane. My thumb slipped on the screen, sticky from the dried soda residue still clinging to my skin. The app loaded, the familiar logo spinning on the screen. I turned the ticket over, squinting to find the QR code through the sticky smudges. My phone's camera struggled to focus for a second. The little square box on the screen blinked red, then turned green. A notification popped up. Winning ticket detected. My breath caught. My thumb hovered over the screen. I tapped. The app refreshed, and the prize amount appeared. $58 million. My vision tunneled. The number stared back at me like it didn't belong there. $58 million. I dropped the phone. It hit the carpet with a soft thud. My knees buckled, and I collapsed onto the bed. My body felt like it was made of static electricity and jelly at the same time. "No way," I whispered. "This can't be real." I snatched the phone back up. The number was still there. I checked the date, the serial number. Everything matched. The sticky, cola-stained ticket in my hand was worth more money than I'd ever even imagined. The reality hit me like a freight train. I screamed. Not a polite, controlled yell, but a full-throated, from-the-gut scream. The kind of sound that makes your neighbors text to ask if you're okay. The sound must have traveled through the walls, because footsteps pounded up the stairs. A knock rattled my door. "Eric," Mom's voice. "What's going on in there?" I scrambled to hide the ticket under my pillow. The phone screen was still glowing, so I shoved it into the pocket of my hoodie. "Nothing." I called back, my voice cracking. "Just, drop something?" The door handle jiggled. Why was there screaming? "Are you okay?" "Yeah, totally fine." Too late. The key turned and the door opened. Mom stepped in, her brows knit together in concern. Behind her, Dad and Jake appeared, curiosity written all over their faces. "Dude, what was that noise?" Jake asked. "You sound like you just saw a ghost. Or a spider." My mind scrambled for a lie. I forced a nervous chuckle and pulled out my phone. I opened the app again and tilted the screen away from them, quickly tapping through to a fake notification. I just won some money on a scratch-off," I said. "Like, $150. Dad snorted. "Well, maybe now you can finally pitch in for the internet bill. Kids these days and their TikTok bills." Jake laughed, and Mom smiled weakly before turning away. "That's nice, honey," she said. "Just keep it down next time." They shuffled out of the room, their interest already fading. The door clicked shut. I locked it again. Then I sat on the bed, heart racing, eyes on the pillow where the ticket was hidden. $58 million. And I was the only one who knew. Sitting on my bed, gripping the ticket like it might evaporate if I let go, I felt the weight of the moment pressed down on me. $58 million. I was holding more money than I'd ever seen or ever thought I'd see in my entire life. But along with the thrill came something darker. Fear. I couldn't tell my family. That much was clear. I thought about every birthday, every holiday, every moment when Jake was celebrated while I was handed a character-building gift. If my parents knew about this ticket, they'd find a way to justify using it for Jake's tuition or Dad's latest home improvement project. Mom would probably say something about family unity and responsible planning, which always meant I got the short end of the stick. No, this was mine. My ticket out. My chance to finally step out of the shadow and into a life I controlled. But how? I opened my laptop, wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans, and typed into the search bar, "How to anonymously claim a lottery jackpot." A dozen articles popped up, mostly fluff pieces warning about scammers and cautionary tales of winners who ended up broke. One headline read, "Lottery winner loses millions to greedy family." I swallowed hard and clicked it. The story detailed how a woman told her relatives about her win, only to be hounded into giving away her fortune. My heart sank. I could see my family doing the same thing. I needed professional help. The next search, lottery lawyer for anonymous claim. After scrolling past several sketchy ads, I found a small, reputable law firm in the city. Their website was simple, with a reassuring tagline, "Protecting your privacy, securing your future." I hovered my fingers over the phone screen for a moment, my mind racing. Was I being paranoid? Was this how lottery winners ended up on those true crime podcasts? I shook the thought away and dialed the number. A receptionist answered with cheerful efficiency. "Law offices of Kendall and Smith. How can I help you?" Hi," I stammered. "I need legal advice about a lottery ticket. Anonymity and stuff." "Of course," she said unfazed. "Would you like to schedule a consultation with Mr. Smith?" "Yeah, As soon as possible. We have an opening tomorrow at 10 a.m. Does that work? Perfect. We'll see you then. I hung up and stared at the screen. My mind raced. What if the lawyer turned out to be shady? What if word got out? What if Jake somehow figured it out and made a TikTok about it just for the views? The next morning, I borrowed Dad's old Chevy Malibu, the one he never used since Jake got his new car. The air conditioner rattled, and the car smelled like stale coffee and regret. The cracked leather seat stuck to my legs, and the radio only played static unless you smacked it just right. I couldn't help but think about all the road trips we'd taken in this car when I was a kid, before Jake started hogging the spotlight. The receptionist smiled and led me to a modest office lined with bookshelves. A man in his 40s with salt and pepper hair and a navy suit greeted me. "I'm Dan Smith," he said, gesturing to a chair. "How can I help?" I sat down and placed the ticket on the desk. "I need to claim this." Anonymously, Dan's eyebrows lifted slightly. He picked up the ticket, inspected it, then opened a drawer and pulled out a small magnifying glass. "Mega Millions," he said, mostly to himself. "Looks legitimate. And if these numbers match the recent draw, well, congratulations." My stomach churned. How do I stay anonymous? "In this state, you can set up a blind trust," Dan explained. "We'll create a legal entity to claim the winnings. The trust becomes the public face, not you. Can my family find out?" "Not unless you tell them," he said with a small smile. "Or unless they subpoena the records, which would be unusual." Relief flooded through me. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." Dan started explaining the process, but my mind drifted. I pictured Jake boasting about his car, Dad grumbling about bills, Mom organizing another party for Jake's next big achievement, and then I pictured Jake's face if he ever found out that the loser brother had hit the jackpot. Now, I had a secret, a life-changing, earth-shattering secret. But secrets have weight. And as I left the office with a folder of paperwork and instructions on next steps, I felt that weight settle on my shoulders. How was I going to live a normal life while hiding $58 million from the people who knew me best? After my meeting with the lawyer, I tried to go back to normal. I really did. But how do you act normal when you're sitting on a fortune that could buy every house in your neighborhood? I started checking my phone more often, tracking updates on the trust account, reading articles about how not to go broke after winning the lottery, and watching YouTube videos of people who blew their winnings on gold-plated swimming pools and pet tigers. I was glued to my phone like it was fantasy football season. I thought I was being discreet. Apparently, I wasn't. Jake noticed. He always had a nose for sniffing out what wasn't his. Like a golden retriever sniffing out contraband snacks. "Why are you always on your phone?" he asked one afternoon, leaning against the fridge while inhaling a bag of Doritos. "Got a secret girlfriend or something?" "Yeah, Jake," I said, forcing a laugh. "Her name's Privacy." He squinted at me. "Weirdo." I turned away, pretending to scroll through Instagram, but I could feel his eyes on me. The thing about Jake is if he smells a mystery, he won't let it go. Ever. A few days later, I was on the phone with Dan Smith, my lawyer, finalizing some paperwork about the trust. I thought I'd close my bedroom door all the way. Turns out it hadn't latched. "Yes," I said, keeping my voice low. "So the funds will be distributed through the trust account." "Exactly," Dan said. "That keeps your name out of public records. We'll file the claim this week." "Good," I said. "The last thing I need is my family finding out." I heard the faintest creak behind me. My blood turned to ice. I spun around. Jake stood in the doorway, eyes wide. His phone was in his hand, held at an angle that made my stomach drop. "What the—" My voice caught in my throat. He bolted. "Jake!" I shouted, but he was already thundering down the stairs. My heart raced as I chased after him. By the time I reached the living room, he was breathlessly blurting it all out to our parents. "Eric won the lottery," he gasped. I heard him talking to a lawyer. He's got money. Like, a lot. Mom's jaw dropped. Dad paused a football game, remote halfway to his mouth. What's this now? It's not what you think, I said, skidding to a stop. My lungs burned. Jake's exaggerating. Exaggerating? Jake snapped. I heard you. You said funds and trust account. You don't even know what those words mean. Eric, Mom said, voice trembling. Did you win money? I hesitated. The truth was a bomb that would blow up my life. Yeah, I said finally. But it's not a big deal. Just $1 million. From a ticket I bought with my own money. For a moment, silence. Then Dad let out a strangled sound and clutched his chest. $1 million, he wheezed. Frank, Mom shrieked. Are you okay? I'm fine, Dad gasped, waving her off. Just $1 million? And you didn't tell us. He sat down heavily, clutching his chest like he'd just seen the Black Friday sale of a lifetime. Jake's mouth hung open. $1 million? Dude. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual. It's, already in a trust. I can't just withdraw it. Mom collapsed onto the couch, the old lazy boy groaning under the sudden weight of her disbelief. $1 million, she whispered. Imagine what we could do with that. Dad rubbed his hands together. Well, first things first, he said. Jake needs a house. Something modest, of course. And we could use a nice RV. Finally see the Grand Canyon. And Eric, Mom asked. He's fine, Dad said, waving dismissively. He's young. He can pay for his own college now, and maybe even get himself an apartment. I stood there, my fake $1 million confession hanging in the air like bad cologne. They were already planning how to spend my imaginary money, and I wasn't even in the plans. Dinner that night felt like sitting through Thanksgiving dinner with relatives who'd been holding grudges since the Reagan administration. The air crackled with unspoken tension as we picked at our meatloaf and mashed potatoes. Jake sat across from me, smirking like he'd just won some game only he was playing. Mom's eyes kept darting toward me, while Dad stabbed his fork into his food with a little too much enthusiasm. I knew what was coming. It wasn't a matter of if. They were terrible at subtlety. It was when. So, Dad finally said, voice strained with forced casualness. $1 million, huh? I kept my eyes on my plate. Yeah. And you didn't think to tell your family? Mom's voice cracked on the word family. I just wanted to handle it myself, I said. It's in a trust. I can't even touch it right now. But eventually, Dad said, leaning forward, eventually it'll be available. For the good of the family. There it was. I dropped my fork, the clink of metal against porcelain sounding louder than it should have. The good of the family? We raised you, Mom said, tears brimming in her eyes. We sacrificed for you. Don't you think you owe it to us? To help. Jake snorted. Yeah, bro. You didn't get here by yourself. We put a roof over your head, fed you, and now you're just going to keep it all. My hands curled into fists beneath the table. Years of frustration boiled over, making my skin prickle with heat. You mean like how you got a brand new car for your birthday, while I got a thrift store jacket? That's different, Dad snapped, his face reddening. Jake has potential. We invested in that, right? And I was just supposed to learn character by bagging groceries and paying for my own classes. I shot back. We're a family, Mom said, voice trembling. Families stick together. We supported you. Now it's your turn to support us. You supported me? I gave a hollow laugh. When? When you told me I wasn't college material? When you spent every dime of the education fund on Jake's tennis lessons? Jake leaned back, arms crossed, his smirk unwavering. You think money's going to make you cool, he sneered. Newsflash. You're still Eric. No amount of cash is going to change that. Dad slammed his fist on the table, rattling the glasses. Enough! He pointed at me, his finger trembling. You're being ungrateful. We're your family. We deserve a share of that money. My heart raced. For years, I'd let them walk over me, dismiss me, push me aside for Jake's benefit. But not this time. I stood up, the chair legs screeching against the floor. Dad's eyes went wide with shock. Jake's smirk faltered for the first time all night. "No," I said, voice shaking but firm. "That money is mine. I earned it. I bought that ticket with my own money. It's my chance at a different life. And I'm not sharing it." Mom gasped like I'd slapped her. Jake shook his head, muttering something under his breath. Dad's face darkened to a dangerous shade of crimson. "You ungrateful little." I didn't stick around to hear the rest. I turned, walked out of the dining room, and went upstairs, locking my door behind me. I sat on my bed, chest heaving, adrenaline coursing through me. My phone buzzed with a text. From Jake. "You're dead to us." Tears burned my eyes, but I blinked them away. My thumb hovered over the screen. This was the first time I'd ever really stood up to them. And it hurt, but it also felt right. "No, Jake," I whispered. "I'm finally alive." I blocked his number and shoved the phone in my pocket. They could yell, cry, and guilt trip all they wanted. I wasn't giving up my future. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I'd never felt before. The weight of the previous night's confrontation still lingered, but beneath it was something stronger: resolve. I wasn't going to let guilt or family manipulation dictate my future. I sat at my desk, pulled out my laptop, and logged into the trust account my lawyer had set up. My heart raced as I navigated through the dashboard. There it was, a balance of $40 million. The funds had officially been deposited after taxes, as Mr. Smith had explained. The federal and state taxes had taken their share, but $40 million was still more than I could wrap my head around. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling shakily. It was real. It was mine. Next, I opened a rental website and found a modest one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just a fresh start. I signed the lease online, packed a duffel bag with essentials, and grabbed my jacket, the one with the torn lining that changed everything. I left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm done. Don't contact me." By the time the sun peeked over the horizon, I was gone. My phone buzzed nonstop throughout the day. Missed calls from Mom. Angry texts from Dad. Jake left a voice message that started with, "Enjoy your trash money, loser," and ended with him swearing revenge for something. I turned off notifications and tried to settle into my new place. The apartment was tiny. Just a living room, a kitchenette, and a bedroom that barely fit a full-size bed. But it was mine. I sat on the floor, eating cold pizza straight from the box, wiping my hands on my jeans. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a link from an old high school friend. "Dude, you're famous," the text read. Curious, I clicked the link. It opened to a viral TikTok. The video showed me, elbows deep in a trash bin, frantically searching for the ticket. The caption read, "Local loser thinks he's winning at life. Hashtag dumpster diver millionaire." Jake's voice narrated the clip. "This is my brother Eric. He's digging through garbage, thinking he's going to find success. Spoiler alert, he never does." My stomach dropped. The video had over 1 million views, and the comments were brutal. Imagine being this desperate. Guy really thought trash equals cash. This is just sad. I felt the familiar sting of humiliation. But then, as I scrolled further, the comments shifted. Wait, didn't someone win $58 million with an old ticket recently? Respect. Dude didn't give up. From trash to treasure. This guy's got grit. News articles started popping up with headlines like, "From trash bin to millionaire. Eric Thompson's incredible lottery story." Reporters reached out, influencers tagged me, and strangers flooded my inbox with messages of support. For the first time in my life, people weren't laughing at me. They were rooting for me. It felt surreal. Like waking up on Christmas morning and finding a car with a bow in the driveway. A week later, I stood in the dealership parking lot, signing papers for a new car. Not a flashy muscle car like Jake's, just a reliable SUV. Comfortable seats, good mileage, freedom on wheels. The salesman handed me the keys. Congrats, Mr. Thompson. Enjoy your ride. I slid behind the wheel, inhaling the crisp, clean scent of new leather. On the passenger seat lay my old jacket with a torn lining, a relic of the moment everything changed. My phone buzzed again. A call from an unknown number. Hello, Eric? This is Laura Myers from Good Morning America. We'd love to have you on the show to share your incredible story. I hesitated, then smiled. Sure, why not? The studio was cold, the lights blinding. The host, a polished man with a perfect smile, leaned forward. Eric, you went from digging through trash to winning millions. What do these winnings mean to you? I adjusted the mic clip to my jacket. Freedom, I said. The chance to live life on my terms. To stop waiting for approval from people who never really saw me. The interview ended, and I walked out of the studio into the fresh morning air. I unlocked my car and glanced at the back seat. The jacket was there, the torn lining visible. A reminder that sometimes life's biggest treasures come from the most unexpected places. I smiled, started the engine, and drove off toward the horizon, leaving the past where it belonged behind me.